Salem is no stranger to secrets, but this one could tear a family apart. Thomas DiMera, once the quiet child in the background, is about to explode with a fury no one saw coming. The truth about Kat Green, her romance with Chad and her shocking impersonation of Abigail, has pushed him past the breaking point. Innocence turns to rage, grief turns to fire, and a fragile love story may shatter before it ever truly begins. What happens when a son declares war on his father's heart? Stay tuned. The chaos of Salem's blackout doesn't just plunge the town into darkness, it exposes secrets that should never have come to light. In the middle of this eerie silence, two young voices cut through, Rachel Black and Thomas DiMera. On the surface, it's just another childish spat, but what unfolds is anything but innocent. Rachel, frustrated and angry, finally snaps. Words tumble out of her mouth like weapons, each one sharper than the last. She blurts out the truth that no one expected her to reveal. Chad hasn't been honest with his son. He claimed he and Kat were nothing more than friends, but in reality, they're in a full-blown romance. Thomas is stunned. For a boy still mourning his mother, the betrayal stings like fire. But Rachel doesn't stop there. She twists the knife deeper by dragging Kat's darkest secret into the light. She reminds Thomas of the day Kat arrived in Salem, not as herself, but as someone pretending to be Abigail, his mother, the woman he loved and lost. Imagine that moment. A grieving child forced to face the idea that his father's new girlfriend once wore his mother's face like a mask. It isn't just a revelation, it's a trauma. From that second on, Thomas's anger is no longer a spark. It's a fuse, lit and burning fast. While Rachel fans the flames, Chad remains unaware that the storm is building under his own roof. To him, life has been cautiously moving forward. He's allowed himself to feel something for Kat, a fragile happiness he never thought possible again. But Salem has a cruel way of reminding people that the past is never buried. Julie Williams is the first to notice. With her instinctive sense for family tension, she reaches out to Chad, quietly voicing her concern. She's observed Thomas, his unusual silence, his withdrawn demeanor. For a boy normally full of questions and energy, this change feels unnatural. Chad, trying to reassure himself, shrugs it off. But deep inside, worry gnaws at him. Spoilers hint that by the October 3rd episode, Chad can no longer ignore the signs. Every attempt to connect with his son is met with walls, and every moment of silence grows heavier. Chad begins to press harder, asking, prodding, desperate to understand what's wrong. But here's the twist. The closer Chad leans in, the closer he comes to triggering the very explosion he fears. His honesty about his relationship with Kat, which he thinks will ease the tension, instead becomes the match that ignites Thomas's fury. Will truth set father and son free, or rip them apart forever? And then it happens, the breaking point. After days of silence, of carrying unbearable weight inside his young heart, Thomas erupts. What spills out is not the voice of a child, but of a wounded soul demanding justice. He doesn't simply cry or complain, he accuses. His words slice through the room with the sharpness of grief turned anger. He points at Chad, his father, the man he trusted most, and accuses him of betraying Abigail's memory. To Thomas, every kiss, every smile Chad shares with Kat is not love, it's betrayal. It's a rewriting of history, a replacement of the irreplaceable. And then he turns on Kat. The rage in his eyes mirrors the confusion in his heart. He calls out her past impersonation, painting it as twisted, cruel, unforgivable. To him, she's not just a woman dating his father, she's the imposter who wore his mother's face, a cruel ghost of someone he loved deeply. Thomas demands answers, but more than anything, he demands loyalty. He demands that his father honor his mother's memory by rejecting the woman who, in his eyes, disrespected it. His outburst is raw, heartbreaking, and painfully human. This is not just a meltdown, it's a transformation. For the first time, Thomas steps into the spotlight as a DiMera heir who cannot be silenced. His grief, his rage, his vulnerability, they all merge into one unforgettable moment. But here's the question for fans. Is Thomas truly protecting his mother's legacy, or has grief blinded him to the possibility that love, even flawed love, can still be real? While Chad wrestles with the storm unleashed by his son, Kat Green finds herself trapped in a nightmare of her own making. Her journey in Salem has never been simple. Whispers, suspicion, and scandal have followed her from the moment she arrived. But now, the ghost of her worst decision, the impersonation of Abigail, returns with devastating force. Thomas's rejection cuts deeper than any words of gossip or public humiliation. To him, Kat isn't simply Chad's girlfriend. She's the living embodiment of betrayal, the woman who dared to wear his mother's face. In his eyes, that wasn't a scheme or a mistake, it was a desecration of memory, a cruelty that can never be forgiven. For Kat, the dilemma is unbearable. If she clings to Chad, she risks driving an even larger wedge between father and son. But if she lets go, she loses the man who has become her anchor, her chance at redemption, and perhaps her one true love. She may attempt to explain, to reframe her past actions as misguided rather than malicious. Yet explanations mean little to a grieving child. Logic cannot rewrite memory, and apologies cannot erase scars. One truth remains clear: Kat and Chad's romance has reached its most brutal test. And in Salem, love rarely survives such trials unscathed. Where does the DiMera family go from here? Spoilers suggest Thomas's eruption is not just a fleeting tantrum, it's a turning point. A fracture line has formed, and whether it heals or widens depends on the choices that follow. For Chad, the path ahead is treacherous. He stands at the crossroads of fatherhood and romance, forced to decide whether his heart belongs to Kat or his loyalty must remain solely with his son. Can he persuade Thomas to see Kat as more than her past mistakes? Or will every attempt at reconciliation only deepen his son's sense of betrayal? Kat's fate also hangs in the balance. Redemption might still be possible, but only if she faces the storm head-on. She must look Thomas in the eyes, apologize without conditions, and prove she has no desire to replace Abigail. If she fails, if even one word rings hollow, she risks being cast out forever, branded as an intruder in the DiMera family. And then there's Thomas. His rage has pulled him from the shadows into the spotlight, transforming him from a child on the sidelines to a central figure in this family's story. But will his pain forge him into a young man of strength, or will it fester into bitterness, leaving scars that no love can heal? The answers lie ahead, but one thing is certain: Salem will never look at the DiMera family the same way again. Salem thrives on drama, but this isn't just another love triangle or scandal, it's a battle of memory, loyalty, and grief. Thomas's pain is raw and undeniable. Chad's love for Kat is genuine, but so is his devotion to his son. And Kat? She stands on the edge of losing everything, her past threatening to destroy her future. This collision of love, betrayal, and legacy creates a tragedy fans will be talking about for years. And now, the choice falls into the hands of those watching. So we ask you, should Chad remain steadfast with Kat, proving that love can overcome even the harshest judgment? Or should he sacrifice his happiness for the sake of his son's fragile heart? Do you believe Kat deserves forgiveness, or has she crossed a line that cannot be undone? And finally, what of Thomas? Will his fury make him stronger, or will it tear apart the very family he's trying to protect? Share your thoughts below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and stay tuned for more Days of Our Lives revelations.